Albemarle County taxpayers are getting a first look at the proposed $724 million budget. The bottom line, no tax rate increase, but many people will still be paying more. Kate Nectarline joins us live in the newsroom with the details. Kate.
Aaron, County Executive Jeff Richardson is not recommending any changes in the tax rate, meaning it'll stay flat, but that can still mean bigger bills with assessments for most people up. Richardson says his focus this year is keeping Albemarle affordable while still funding the essentials.
There is going to be a certain segment of the population that always says you're taxing too much and spending too much. There's always going to be a certain segment of the population that says, you know what, you're not taxing enough.
That is the balance that Albemarle County's Board of Supervisors will have to navigate as it crafts next year's budget. County Executive Jeff Richardson's proposal focuses on investments in education, economic development, and public safety. That includes drawing from reserve funds to pay for 3 new police officers, 3 new sheriff's deputies, and increases funding for firefighters as federal grants expire. This comes as each agency sees a significant increase in service calls.
And so we want to be responsive to the community on the public safety needs.
The proposal also transfers $218 million to schools and sets aside $6.4 million for big projects, including consideration of a 4th high school. Supervisor Mike Pruitt says it will take far more each year to make that a reality.
It is going to be a much more painful process.
Richardson is proposing the tax rate remain flat at about 89 cents per $100 after a 4-cent per 100 increase last year. Some, though, remain concerned about affordability as property assessments rose by an average of 6% this year.
I'm a little bit disappointed that the county executive is not willing to lower the tax rate in order to provide some savings to county residents.
Richardson, though, says AstraZeneca's investment, the largest economic development announcement in the county in decades, helped them avoid a 2-cent tax rate increase this year and should provide some relief in the future.
The significant capital industry investment will just be unbelievable.
Well, we are far from the final budget. There will be a public hearing on the proposal next Wednesday, March 4th, and then a series of budget town halls that community members can attend to voice their feedback. We have those details on our website. Live in the newsroom, Kate Nectarline, 29 News at 6.